Happy New Year, colleague. It's a time of great tidings. I just want to give you 3 types of goals that I think are super helpful to reflectively think about and create at this time of year. All right, so first of all, why do we set goals? We set goals because they allow us to gain a sense of efficacy so long as we make the goal setting about the growth that takes place during goal striving, not just the destination. You see, when you set goals just based on the destination, then upon arriving at the destination, you can quickly fall back into old patterns of behavior. And typically that's not what we want with goal setting. What we want is to not just arrive at the destination goal, but to also arrive there having become a new kind of person, a kind of person that we more want to be. So before I describe these 3 goals, just think about that. Think about the fact that as you set your goal, the one thing you won't miss is the growth that comes from goal striving. But then we hope that you'll also end up getting some goal achievement thrown in too. This is how I talk about goals with my students as well. All right, so there are 3 types of goals that I think are super helpful in the new year for educators. A year goal, deadline December 31, 2024. A May goal, deadline the end of May, aka roughly the end of the school year. And a first week of school in the new year goal. Deadline, January, whatever, the end of your first week of school. So for your year goal, the goal that terminates in December of 2024, make this personal or professional. I strongly encourage the personal goal setting because cultivating excellence in your teaching is also about cultivating excellence in your life. Let me just tell you a couple of goals that I've set over the past few years to give you a sense of how this doesn't have to be world conquest. It can be just stuff that you genuinely want to do, whether anyone else values it or not. One year I did the whole marathon thing with my little brother Ben, and we did end up crawling our way across the finish line by the end of the year. I do believe there was some crawling involved though. This was not a glorious achievement, but it was just a thing that we got to do together as brothers, and we were super proud of the fact that we beat our mom's time from several decades before by like 2 minutes. Yeah, we really let her know. Also, just for context, Ben and I were both kind of in our physical primes at the time that we did this, so my mom definitely let us know that, you know, she was like in her 40s when she accomplished her time. But yeah, the life of the child of a badass mother, you know? One year, a couple years ago, my goal was to just read the entirety of the Wheel of Time series. A buddy of mine, Chris Painter, was into them. Another buddy of mine, Tim Glarum, was telling me how awesome they are. The show was just coming out on Amazon, so that had kind of made me intrigued. I've always been a guy who appreciates fantasy novels. Like when I was a little kid, I read Lord of the Rings, and I just loved it. But I realized that I had fallen away from just like reading for fun. And so, you know, of course I didn't pick like, I'm going to read a novel. I picked a 4.5 million word series. Then I just worked my way book by book. At first I'd get the paperback copies, but then I realized like most of my reading was done while traveling and these things were annoying to carry with me. So then I had like a cheap old Kindle that I got the Kindle versions on. And then I started adding in the Audible books, and I just cranked through these things, and I felt this very, very rewarding sense of accomplishment. But I think what was so rewarding about it is that this like wasn't something to go and brag to your friends about, because it was a super nerdy thing, like borderline obsessive to read that many books in 1 year as an adult. But it just made me, it reopened up, I guess, this sense of wonder with the worlds of fantasy that authors can create. So I'm really thankful that I did that goal. And to revisit my very first point in the video, even had I not reached the goal by the end of the year, I still would have had this wonderful experience exploring the world that Robert Jordan created. So there you go. Set a goal for yourself, preferably a personal goal that you would like to accomplish by December. All right, now for your May goal, end of school year goal, this one I would recommend making it teaching related. But don't fall into the trap of like, I want all my students to pass this big test, or I want to have this rate of them meet proficient. Shy away from those goals because there's just so much that you don't control there, and instead focus on goals that you absolutely can control. One year I set a goal to have my students read 40 articles from current events between the end of the school year. That was a great goal because I totally controlled that, and I had a little checklist that I would keep up at the front of the classroom. It was just for me, just to keep me honest and focused on the goal. But like when I got to the end of that year, I had given my students 40 different knowledge building opportunities that were extracurricular. That for sure made an impact. And the nice thing is, it was just totally up to me how I used my lesson time to find the extra 10 or 15 minutes that it took to give my students another article. Another goal like that I've set before is the number of pop-up debates that I want to hit before the end of the school year. So actually, last New Year in January 2023, I realized that I hadn't done much pop-up debates with my students at all. So I just said, I want to try to get at least 12 pop-up debates in between now and the end of the school year with my classes. And I think we made it to like pop-up debate number 10, so I didn't achieve the goal. But all that goal-striving behavior did a bunch for my students. They had 10 different pop-up debate experiences. Many of them wrote about pop-up debates as the highlight of second semester. And I rediscovered this part of my teaching that I'd kind of fallen away from. I'd gotten distracted with other good things. I had let pop-up debates fall off the plate. And that momentum is still happening for me this school year, because if you've looked around on my channel, you can see this series of pop-up debates that I'm reflecting on after each one and creating a video for that. I'm like super excited for pop-up debates now, and I have been for the whole first semester, and I can't wait to see what semester 2 has to bring. And then finally, set a goal just for the next week of your teaching practice, your first week of the new year. Even though you might still be finishing up semester 2, or maybe you're starting semester 2, I don't care where you're at in the academic calendar, there is just going to be a specialness to student receptivity coming off of break. Now, there's also going to be a specialness in how much they've forgotten about your class and maybe how many habits of laziness that they've hardened during the preceding 2 weeks. Like those special things will be there too. But just like you and I are kind of aware of the newness of the new year, so are they. So just try something. Maybe return to something new. Maybe hit a few points that you want them to really think about for this new year. Maybe even lead them in this goal setting exercise that you and I are doing right now. All right, there you go. 3 goals. Set them, write them down someplace, and then go get after them. Cheers.